Amahoro. Amahoro. I just started asking, saying Amahoro and asking which other countries whose common greetings are peace. That you know. Israel. What is the common greeting? Shalom. What's the next country then? Which one? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, just to you can forget about me, or we're gonna say, but Burundi is another country whose common greeting is Amahoro, peace. Just to wish you peace for this time, and it's a pleasure for me to be here, sharing about community engagement mission we are undertaking in Northern Indiana Diocese. As I've been already said, I need to thank, first of all, Missional Voices for having invited me and asking if I will be willing to share about the work we are doing in our diocese. And I extend my thanks to Unite Thanks Offering, who offered us a grant to hire a community engagement missioner, and who happened to be the gentleman who's talking to you now. So, that being said, I don't know how it's gonna be. I have my little sideshow here, and I'm gonna be just moving back and forth. No, excuse me for that. In our community engagement, we are focusing on ABCD, asset-based community development. I like how Alec Barrett defines it as a way of being with the community, assessing what are the gifts, talents, strengths that community disposes. It's a way of saying, okay, it's inside out, acknowledging that community has a basis to start from. We're going to them, we are together, looking at what can we do using talents that God gave us to overcome challenges that are in our way and make a well-being in our community and society. I don't know how many remember this watch or have owned one. Can I see? How does it operate? Wind it up. Community engagement using ABCD, it's just being in the community and living with community members. In our ABCD approach, our faith communities came to look at what are our church, our culture and traditions that would interrogate the reality on the ground and work with the neighbors to be a community that embraces all the diversities within. That watch doesn't use batteries, does it? No. But nowadays, there is this technology advancement, which is good. My father didn't have that type of watch. He had another old one, so I didn't want just to use that one. After I talked with my wife, asking her, what would be the best watch I could use as a way of returning to our tradition here in the States? And she said, maybe this pocket watch will speak better than the other one. You need to rewind it. How often? Per day. If you don't do it, how does it work? Slows down. I don't know if you can just remember the sound it makes. Once you rewind it, it's a tap, tap, tap. and goes a little bit, cha, cha, and then afterwards we're gonna just maybe, oh, what time is it? Oh, my watch stopped. ABCD reminds us that we need to go back to our traditions and see let's go back. Are we working for communities or are we working with communities? That's the key in our ABCD approach. What are we doing? If we are working with communities, how do we do? And if we work for communities, what are we doing? We need to assess how functional are we and what could we share with our neighbors and neighborhoods to be that place where everybody will be accepted. How much our norms and customs dictate us to do things in this way or that way. And you may remember, sometimes norms and culture, or norms and customs are stronger than beliefs. So we are Christian with our belief in Jesus Christ, but our norms and customs can prevent us from becoming or being Christians we want to be, or the Bible recommends us to be. And Jesus said, I give you new commandment. Which one is it? Love God and love your neighbor. And who's my neighbor? How do I define he, she is my neighbor? I was just in my work. I was somewhere, northern Indiana. It's huge, it's wide. You know? And I was interacting with a congregation, and this 5-year girl came to me. She stood in front of me. She looked at me. I said, hey. And another person came, you know what? Maybe it's the first time to see a person like you, that little girl is standing in front of you. And in me, I said, oh, what part of me is new to the girl? Interrogate our reality. How do we define who's our neighbor? How do we come to being together, working for God's kingdom? But afterwards, I just been a little bit, and I interact with the young girl, and I ask her, how are you? I'm good. Oh, you know what? I have kids too, and I play with, yes, I play with Dad. And she said, oh, can I just be squeezing in and say, come in, because we're just getting refreshment. So just a little moment, we transform the whole issue of being new to each other by becoming friends. I'm sure if we had a whole day, that would have been another thing. But how do we do to be the real neighbor to our neighbors? Revisit our customs, revisit our culture and our tradition in working with instead of working for. Another example in our ABCD that was very touching for me. I went to a congregation, they had, they call it loaves and fishes. And I just went, I was new to that congregation. Most of the people didn't know me. So I went and I said, oh, I should go straight to the counter and get food. But there was 12, 13-year-old girl, and she said, do you want to go or here? Because they offer food for those who want to take it home or those who want to stay and share. I said, oh, here. Because I had just talked with the priest in charge and said, that's how we operate. And later on she said, okay, what if you just take a seat over there? And after dinner, after the meal, I went to the father and I asked, who are people who just come to dinner time? And he said, it's open to everybody. We come as church members and eat with those who can't have dinner or have lunch. That spoke to me so deeply. In a way, I tell my kids when we go to after school, that's another activity we do, we're gonna eat with them. Don't come and say, Dad, you're gonna have a dinner at home. No, we have eaten. Eating with them. Revisit our tradition and revisit our culture in being the neighbors we want to see in our neighborhood. ABCD brought us to look at how do we listen to our neighbors. There are so many things that we live in. No, social injustices are obvious. There are historical harms that occurred in our society. How do we pay attention to those when we interact with our neighbors? So with ABCD, we come to see, okay, here we are, and we would love to be with you. We have this frank discussion, which is giving the power to the community. The scholar defined it as a way of reducing the dependency approach. Because so many times, interventions have been done in communities. But when we evaluate or look at what is the impact, what is the change that has happened, just to see that, yes, the community is benefiting from our initiatives. Instead, statistics say so many have become impoverished, poorer, and communities are shrinking, and more poor people are getting the surface. Why that? Which is the origin of asset-based community taking lead in community engagement style. How do we give ownership? How do we give power to the ideas and thoughts from the community? Because they know who they are, and they know where they want to be, and they can tell you where to start from. They have speed that we need to go. That pace should dictate us on how to do our work. So often, when we do our workshops or our discussions, we have in mind, in 1 hour, we need to cover this. And in 2 years, we need to have done this. UTO knows that we're going to give a report at the end of the year. And there are objectives that we put in the grant. So we're going to cover this and this. But when it comes to building relationships, I am no longer master of, okay, who's going to be my friend? Who's going to be part of this project? There are unexpected things that occur. How do we take time to build relationships in our communities, in our neighborhoods? We need to be patient. We need to listen actively, transcend those biases, those prejudices, and bring the community to face the social injustices for the sake of social change that will make everybody benefit from God's kingdom on earth. The other key step we noticed in our community engagement is walking the journey of hope and dignity with our neighbors. That's a picture of me and my son during the March for Our Lives. I was so happy and touched by the energy and fire I found in those who came. But I was crying when my son asked me, "Dad, how are you feeling?" I was really sad and saying, "What's gonna be afterwards? What are the initiatives that are gonna take place after we have marched for our lives? When we are back home, what story gonna tell our kids? What story gonna tell our neighbors for the next step?" That's so good. And the faith communities should just take lead in bringing those energies together so we can address and face those historical harms that occurred. Even still, their manifestations are still alive in our midst. It's a journey of liberation. Watson said, "If your liberation is not bound up to or with mine, there is no way of working together. But if your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together." How much a church liberation is bound with community's liberation? Or our liberation would be the oppression of the community. I don't want to come back to what the presiding bishop said yesterday. It was clear. It's time for the church to seek the liberation for the community, the neighborhood, so that Jesus Christ will be obvious and live in the community, in the heart of the community. What next? That quote says a lot, or all. We need to seek how could we combine different various ways in bringing the kingdom of God beyond our boundaries, as my friend said it before. Yes, if evangelism without social work is deficient, social work without evangelism is important. How do we seek, finding what is needed and listen to the community so we can do what God wants us to do? Interrogate reality by being boldly present in our neighborhoods. When? With who? What? Those are questions we need to be questioning. Where are going to be? It's just ongoing, it's a constant. One thing, community is always inclusion and exclusion. Therefore, the faith community has to be present in the community to just accompany the growth of the community. When there is a change, when there is just all those things we have heard, we are the first to inform the decision makers instead of the other way. We should be the one providing the information that needed to be implemented because we live the reality, the daily reality with the neighbors and community members. Just my way of concluding, just to say that walking the journey of hope and dignity with neighborhood and neighbors is an act of faith. Because congregations accept that God's kingdom is beyond the faith community's boundaries. Therefore, ABCD, as a basic community, invites faith communities to be boldly present in those communities with whom they engage, and together with local residents, work the community's brokenness. in making more functional the work that God has started there. In so doing, faith communities contribute to restoring local residents in their hope and dignity, and therefore living a life of purpose. Thank you. I'm out.